about censorship and free speech. Welcome to Truth Talk Wisdom Walk with C.A. Curtis. I'm Carolyn. And speaking of censorship, is the novel Brave New World still relevant today? In the early 1930s, Aldous Huxley saw trouble coming. Is there still any reason for concern as we race toward dystopia with a crumbling foundation? 24/7 entertainment, controlled speech, relativism, media-staged news, fake food, mind-altering drugs, and our sex-saturated culture. Perhaps. Huxley's novel wove a dire warning of society organized by elite social planners. Maybe they were meeting someplace in Europe. Well, with no family, history, or free thought, life was designed and spawned in the laboratory, from alphas to semi-morons, depending on what job you needed them to do. When Savage, one of the main characters, arrived in the sterile environment from an uncontrolled reservation, he became the latest entertainment and a specimen to be studied by the controller Mond. Of alpha and beta minus descent, his mother Linda had birthed and raised him in the wild, too ashamed of motherhood to rejoin civil society. There, she survived as a mistress, assaulted by village wives, and her son was discarded by her lovers and rejected by peers, although he really didn't have peers. Yet, she taught him to read, which opened the world of Shakespeare for his curious mind. When he was taken to civilization, a noble love grew in John Savage. He desired to earn the honor of marrying the beautiful nurse, Lenina, but, programmed for sensuous promiscuity, she scolded him and disrobed after he declared his love. Quote, Savage retreated in terror, flapping his hands at her as though he were trying to scare away some intruding and dangerous animal. 4 backward steps, and he was brought to bay against the wall. Sweet, said Lenina, laying her hands on his shoulders, pressed herself against him. Put your arms around me, she commanded. Hug me till you drug me, honey. Unquote. Longing for true love, repulsed and angry, Savage lashed out and demanded she leave. He refused to accept the terms of the Brave New World. After meeting and challenging the controller Mond's view that happiness and stability were more important than humanity, Savage was allowed to finally retreat to an abandoned coastal lighthouse, alone. Thoughts of his terrified, dying mother mingled with desire for Lenina. Haunted by her presence and her scent, he beat himself. He whipped himself in agony, hating himself and hating her for being a strumpet. Tracked down and discovered by the people, he was hounded by media. On film, his bloody self-torture entertained the masses, who soon descended upon him like vultures, demanding to see the whip in action, him beating himself. When Lenina arrived and attempted to approach him, tragedy ensued, and she bore the brunt of his madness. Savage was trapped between utopian excesses and primitive forces. Truth about God and redemption was suppressed as superfluous. Savage had little recourse but insanity and suicide in an effort to silence the temptation and try to atone for his own guilt and shame. My 1965 copy includes Brave New World Revisited. After 3 decades, Huxley followed up with additional dire warnings about centralized power, propaganda, and brainwashing. He believed that our endangered freedoms were due to over-organization and overpopulation, and he urged that we educate for freedom. However, population control experts were too successful with their warnings. It is one area Huxley got wrong. We're waking up to the fact that our fertility rates have dropped below replacement levels and could lead to a depopulation spiral. Yet, he warned prophetically about the steady progress of science and mind manipulation, which could offer pleasurable bondage preferred above freedom. Yeah, just think of people in their rooms, not speaking to others all day, just in bondage to the latest game, in bondage to that little screen, in bondage to plastic and glass and electronics. Huxley's last paragraph in Revisited rings true today. Quote, "But some of us still believe that without freedom, human beings cannot become fully human, and that freedom is therefore supremely valuable. Perhaps the forces that now menace freedom are too strong to be resisted for very long. It is still our duty to do whatever we can to resist them," unquote. Huxley regretted not having Controller Mond allow Savage to live in Iceland with his friends and other banished citizens. I took that as an invitation. Like those stories where you choose your own ending, I wrote a final chapter for myself. So this chapter rewrite offers a new beginning. And here it is. Citizens startled as Controller Mond's helicopter landed between Lenina and Savage just in time. His commanding voice brought instant obedience as all were ordered to leave. Trembling with fear, Lenina's life was spared when she fled with the jeering spectators who had screamed for her blood. An eerie silence remained as their helicopters faded into the distance. The familiar sound of waves caressing beach and boulders calmed Savage, and he fell to his knees, sobbing, "Oh my God, my God." In the glow of sunset, Controller Mond, chastened that he had used Savage for his own purposes, waited and watched as John Savage poured out his soul with unintelligible groanings, spared the consequences of murder in his heart. John looked up and stood to his feet, shoulders back, half naked, bloody with his own blood alone. Finally, Mond spoke. "Forgive me, John. Perhaps someday you will. You were right. You are right about humanity and freedom. But I can't make any changes here and now. But you will not be used again. Do what you need to do to be ready to leave for Iceland in the morning. Your friend will be waiting for you." And a sequel to that ending could, as I mentioned, offer hope, healing, and redemption. Huxley moved from England to California, where he turned from atheism to Eastern mysticism and continued writing novels and screenplays in the day that stunned the world. November 22nd, 1963, 3 famous men died. C.S. Lewis died of kidney failure. Aldous Huxley died of cancer. And President John F. Kennedy was assassinated. The details of Kennedy's murder unfold, and the secrecy has inspired conspiracy theories, books, and movies as we just hunger for the truth. Today, truth has almost collapsed under the weight of deception, and wisdom staggers from lack of oxygen. We are inundated by blatant false information. The average adult doubts the words of government officials about the economy, science, public health, or safety. The great cover-up about the real mental state of President Biden's health shook institutional trust, and well it should, even as insiders scrambled to sweep reality under the rug with platitudes and damage control. What other secrets need to see the light of day, and will we ever see that? Power still corrupts. I do believe things are shifting in the right direction, and we have Kennedy trying to stop the dangerous additives to our food. That's a big step in the right direction. We like to think we're different from oppressive regimes that censor and silence those who dare give warning, question, or criticize government or leaders. Could truth spoken, written, illustrated in artistic form, or in documentaries even send us to prison in an effort to silence us? Has that happened? It has. Is it happening here? After the Communist Revolution, political correctness, PC, in the USSR kept people in line with party rules. Those who broke the rules ended up ostracized, punished, sent to the gulag, or dead. Swift action served notice that self-censorship was a requirement for survival. The PC trend swept into our universities and classrooms, and limited free speech deemed offensive to anyone. We know we went too far when sacred words like mother and father were labeled as offensive. Compelled speech was on the horizon, and self-censorship was our norm at home, work, and in community. We're finally breathing some fresh air. But we do well to be curious about how revolutionary PC infiltrated our nation and undermined families. We failed to pass on the moral principles which made us strong in schools. Our idealistic and passionate youths were demoralized, propagandized, and turned against parents. Why? And what is the bigger picture? And here you have to really frankly look at the NEA. That's the National Education, right? The NEA, Teachers Union, has had a lot to do with that. Remember, divided we fall. Who has the most to gain by our division and our fall? Who funded our division in the past, and who funds our division today? Russia, China, and the Middle East compete with each other, determined to rise in power and dominate our world. Yeah, the world, specifically our world. It is in their interest to cause division. Since freedom of religion and speech are Western ideals, we play the fool, allowing ourselves to be divided and distracted by their assaults on our national identity. And since these assaults are aimed at our youth to undermine their identity, we must act and reclaim our heritage before free speech and freedom of conscience are discarded. We can refuse to be divided by social change agents working toward another failed utopia. We can find news sources that offer news instead of opinions. We can join hands across the divide and unite to listen to each other. We can learn from history and past mistakes while we sift facts to discover what worked before and can work again. And new ideas that can work. We can invite people to trade victimhood for resilience. We can rebuild our families and communities with love, truth, and wisdom. We can maintain free speech with limited censorship for clear and present danger, defamation, and obscenity. We can master respect and civility, while our ideas and theories are tried and tested, first at home and then in the public arena. Remember Huxley's warnings about elites and controllers preparing a brave new world. Who will join their world at the cost of our freedom? Encourage one another. We're not alone. Love truth, be grateful, and do good. And I welcome you to like and subscribe for more content. Thank you for joining the journey of Truth Talk Wisdom Walk. Until we meet again.